A girl, Cecilia Cass, quietly wakes up from her sleep early one morning. Lying beside her is Adrian Griffin, Cecilia's boyfriend who makes a great fortune as an optical engineer and entrepreneur. They live in a secluded, ultramodern house overlooking a coast. Cecilia reaches for a bottle of diazepam placed under the bed, which she has used to sedate Adrian. It turns out that she is planning to run away from her abusive boyfriend. Cecilia sets a CCTV camera to watch over Adrian to make sure he is sound asleep while she carefully retrieves her belongings. She repeatedly makes little noises, but manages to make her way out. When she is about to leave the house, Cecilia removes the shock collar that Adrian has put on their dog, Zeus, but it accidentally bumps into a car parked in the basement and sets off the alarm. Cecilia abruptly runs away, worried that Adrian is awakened by the noise. She is picked up by her sister Emily, but it turns out that Adrian has been chasing Cecilia. He is furious, telling her that she shouldn't have escaped. He attacks the car just seconds before they depart. Cecilia unknowingly drops her diazepam before she gets in the car and Adrian picks it up. Cecilia lives in hiding with her childhood friend, James Lanier, who is a cop, and her daughter Sydney. Cecilia is terrified to take a step outside of the house due to her trauma and gets scared easily by strangers. She reveals that Adrian has been coercively controlling her throughout their relationship. Adrian wants a child, but knowing that she won't be able to run away from him with a child, Cecilia secretly takes birth control pills. One day, Emily pays a visit to James' house, but Cecilia is agitated. Emily isn't allowed to visit Cecilia since Adrian knows where Emily lives. They are afraid that Adrian might follow her to find Cecilia. However, Emily calms her down and informs her that Adrian has committed suicide. Cecilia then plucks up the courage to go outside knowing that Adrian has deceased. James is pleased to see her progress. A few days later, she receives a letter from Adrian's brother Tom Griffin who asks Cecilia to meet him for the reading of Adrian's will. Tom informs Cecilia that she is a beneficiary of Adrian's trust. She will receive a total of $5 million which will be paid out in monthly installments over the next 4 years, on the condition that she is mentally healthy and uninvolved in criminal activities. Adrian also stated in the will that Cecilia should have talked to him instead of running away, but Cecilia disregards it. With the money, Cecilia surprises James with a new ladder and a new bank account for Sydney. She promises Sydney that she will send some money to her new account each month so she could go to her dream college. Cecilia still feels haunted despite knowing that Adrian is deceased. She starts to experience unexplained occurrences. One night, she sees the front door opened and feels an unknown presence in her room. Someone pulls the blanket when Cecilia is asleep, but when she goes to retrieve it, a footprint steps on it. Cecilia feels a push and screams for James, but they find no one around. Cecilia goes to a job interview the next day. It all goes well until Cecilia finds her portfolio's contents removed. She passes out after the interview and brought to a doctor who informs her that she has high levels of diazepam in her bloodstream, the same drug she used to sedate Adrian. Cecilia is appalled. She believes that she has lost the pills since the night she ran away and has no memory of taking any of the pills after that night. She realizes that Adrian might have taken it back to her. Cecilia then goes to meet Tom. She tells Tom she wants Adrian to stop terrorizing her. She is convinced that Adrian has faked his death and somehow finds a way to be invisible, given his expertise in optics. Adrian also once mentioned to Cecilia that he would be able to find her wherever she went, but she would not be able to see him. Tom disagrees at first, but eventually shows sympathy for Cecilia, telling her not to let Adrian get inside her mind. Cecilia goes to her sister's apartment, only to find out that someone has sent a hurtful message to Emily using Cecilia's email. The email says Cecilia wants nothing to do with her sister and wishes her dead. Cecilia insists that Adrian was the one sending the message, but Emily is not convinced. She tells Cecilia to seek help for her mental problem and immediately shuts her out. Cecilia goes back to James' house. She reads the email and weeps over her sister. Sydney calms her down, but suddenly an unseen force attacks her. James assumes that Cecilia was the one attacking his daughter. He furiously flees with Sydney and leaves Cecilia alone in the house. Cecilia dares Adrian to show himself. She sets a trap by spreading coffee grounds over the floor to figure out where Adrian is. She then makes a call to Adrian's mobile and hears a ringing phone in the attic. She finds Adrian's phone in the attic with pictures of her and Sydney sleeping, implying that he had indeed found a way to be invisible and had been watching her. She also discovers the portfolio contents she was supposed to bring to the job interview. She receives a text message saying surprise, supposedly sent by Adrian, then quietly crawls to the attic trap door, frightened and convinced that Adrian is nearby. She pours white paint all over the invisible figure, now revealed to be Adrian. Cecilia climbs back down with a knife she found in the attic, prepared to fight. However, she finds the sink in the kitchen running, meaning that Adrian has washed the paint off. Adrian, who is now back to be invisible, suddenly chokes Cecilia and throws her around the kitchen. Cecilia struggles to fight Adrian, but manages to flee. She calls a cab and goes to Adrian's house, which is now abandoned. She discovers a spare invisible bodysuit in Adrian's lab and examines the suit. It turns out that Adrian has been using a series of cameras and projectors to enable him to camouflage into the environment around him and be invisible. Cecilia hurriedly brings the bodysuit with her. She suspects Adrian had made his way to the house and hides in the closet. Adrian slowly enters the closet, but Cecilia is able to see his whereabouts based on his footprints on the carpet floor and succeeds to run. On the way back, she calls Emily and asks her to meet in a restaurant that night. They chat for a while and reconcile. However, as soon as Cecilia starts to tell Emily that she can prove that Adrian is stalking her, a knife floats between the two and invisible force slits Emily's throat. The invisible man then puts the knife in Cecilia's hand, framing her for the murder of her sister. Everyone in the restaurant witnessed the occurrence. Cecilia is captured by the authorities and brought to a mental facility. She is tested and interrogated by James. She convinces him that Adrian was the one who murdered her sister, but he does not believe her. Cecilia angrily tells the invisible Adrian that he could not take anything else from her since she has nothing left. Then, from a blood test at the facility, Cecilia is informed that she is pregnant with Adrian's baby. She is stunned to hear the news since she has been taking birth control pills to prevent pregnancy. Tom pays a visit and tells Cecilia that the remaining money from Adrian's trust cannot be transferred for the time being, given her mental health problem. Despised at Tom and knowing that he has also been abused by his brother during childhood, Cecilia makes condescending comments. Tom then offers Cecilia to have the baby and get back together with Adrian if she doesn't want him to further terrorize her, revealing that Tom has been a part of his brother's staged death, but she declines. He also tells Cecilia that Adrian has known all along that she takes birth control pills and he switched it with other pills so she was able to get pregnant. While in the visiting room, Cecilia secretly takes a pen. That night, knowing that Adrian is watching her, Cecilia attempts to kill herself and convinces Adrian that he won't get the baby he wants. Once Adrian grabs her hand, she attacks him with the pen, causing his bodysuit to glitch. A security officer comes to Cecilia's room and sees Adrian, who's now only partly invisible. More officers arrive and see Adrian, but he knocks them all out. Adrian flees through the emergency exit, but Cecilia chases and aims to shoot him. Outside of the facility, Adrian suddenly appears before Cecilia. He tells Cecilia that since she is carrying his baby, he will hurt Sydney instead. Cecilia hurriedly calls James to warn him. She steals a car and rushes to James' house to protect Sydney. Back at James' house, Sydney hears strange noises but finds no one around. James arrives at his house and finds Sydney choked by the invisible man. The invisible man then attacks James, violently incapacitating him. Cecilia arrives and shoots the invisible figure. Thinking she has succeeded to kill Adrian, Cecilia is dismayed to see Tom behind the suit. A tactical team is sent by James to ambush Adrian's house. They find Adrian tied and gagged inside the walls of his house, supposedly kidnapped by Tom. It turns out that Adrian is using Tom as a scapegoat for everything that had been going wrong and plays victim. James insists that Tom was the one stalking Cecilia, but she knows the truth. She tells James that if Adrian could fake his death, he could also fake the kidnapping. That night, Cecilia calls Adrian and asks to meet. When she arrives at Adrian's house, he acts friendly towards Cecilia and invites her to have dinner with him. Cecilia tells Adrian that she is willing to get back to him if Adrian admits that he was the one orchestrating the terror and not his brother, but he insists that it is not true and that he loves her. Turns out, James is listening to the conversation over a wire that Cecilia wears. Upon Adrian's insistence, Cecilia excuses herself and goes to the bathroom. Adrian is waiting for her in the dinner room when an unseen force suddenly approaches him and forces him to slit his own throat. The CCTV camera in the room records the occurrence. When Cecilia gets out of the bathroom and sees Adrian, she is distressed and immediately calls 911. However, as she gets off the phone, in a corner out of the CCTV's reach, Cecilia sits back and mocks Adrian as he bleeds out. When James arrives at the house, he notices that Cecilia is bringing the bodysuit. He is aware that Cecilia kills Adrian using the bodysuit, but lets her leave. Finally, Cecilia walks free from Adrian. Although she knows that her life is on the line, Cecilia refuses to give up to her abusive boyfriend and fights for her freedom. What would you do if you were in Cecilia Cass' position? Subscribe to watch more videos like this, turn on notifications, and leave a like and comment to help the channel out. Thank you for watching, and see you next time.